Let's talk real quick about a biblical example of dealing with a narcissist. What does the Bible have to say about how to deal with people like this? What are the examples we have? What about in the relationship in 1 Samuel 18 with David and Saul? Okay, David was a young man who was serving his king, King Saul. David was a faithful servant to the king. He did nothing but make the king look good and do whatever he wanted him to do. And David was beginning to get a lot of respect among the people, and he was eclipsing Saul. And Saul was jealous and actually tried to kill him. Hopefully, most of you know this story, so I'm not going to actually read it. But let's look at what happens. David behaves himself wisely, it says in the scripture. And then it says that Saul becomes very jealous of him. Jealousy is the sin and the unclean spirit that starts this whole dramatic encounter and relationship and really narcissistic battle that you see with David and Saul. Saul becomes distressed over jealousy from a person who is not even doing anything to harm him. He's doing nothing but being faithful to him and serve him. It's all internal inside of Saul. He becomes distressed. He becomes obsessed and possessed and determines, I'm going to pin him to the wall. I'm going to destroy him. I'm going to kill him. And right as David is in the middle of serving his king and playing the harp for his king, I mean, you would think that the king would see, this is my faithful servant. No, King Saul is holding a spear in his hand, and he thinks he's going to pin David to the wall with it and take his life. And it says David escapes twice from Saul's spear and attempt on David's life. And it says, what happens? Saul grows more fearful of David. Saul's the one with a spear in his hand. Why is he scared of little David who's got a harp in his hand? This is what happens with the narcissist. They become scared of the victim because the victim is, ching, 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 listen, behaving himself wisely. You must always behave yourself wisely. So here David is the one, the victim, and vulnerable to Saul's spear. Yet Saul fears David because it says in the Bible, God is with David and God has departed from Saul. Saul knows deep down inside that God has left him and God is with David. And now Saul is going cuckoo with fear and narcissistic rage. So let's look at what David does. All right, because this is the end and the crux of what I want to talk about. What do we do when we're in these narcissistic relationships? David disappeared. He disappeared. He distanced himself. He ran. He went no contact. And if you've ever read any articles or insights on narcissism or watched any videos on narcissism, you'll know that they say go no contact as much as possible, or it's often called going gray rock. Not involving, not responding, not engaging, not saying, look what you've done to me, look at this lie you told. They'll never admit what they did. It's a totally useless and worthless and futile exercise for you to ever to get them to see the light. Narcissists will never see the light. And so you go no contact. You behave yourself wisely. When you behave yourself wisely, no matter what the narcissist does to try to accuse you, to try to claim you've done this, that, or the other, if they have no hard evidence, they're going to fall flat on their face. Behave yourself wisely. Stop trying to fix the narcissist. If you keep fixing the narcissist, they're never going to crash and burn. They're never going to be exposed for the abuser that they are. So you have to stop fixing them and you have to let the situation play out. It's one of the hardest things in your life to do, especially if you're a fixer and you're a person who can get stuff done. It's really hard to stop fixing the narcissist in your life. But that is the only way you're actually going to finally break through into freedom. And I'd say do what David did, if at all possible, and run from your situation. Get away from the narcissist in your life if it is at all possible. Obviously, if you're a minor, you're a 12-year-old, let's say, and you have a narcissistic parent, you can't just run away. And so, again, only if this is applicable in your situation do you try to completely exit. No matter how long you've been dating this guy or this girl, completely exit the situation now, no delay, full stop.